about work and live in China and teaching English in China. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, how you arrived and where you actually teach and how everything is going for you right now. So I'm going to start with the one here. How did you decide to come to China and teach English?
Well, I was studying at university. I've actually still got a year left, and I realised that I wanted to see a lot more of the world before I decided to finish my degree and eventually start working in
Hmm?
whatever I wanted to do. And my degree was international relations, which is all about different cultures, different governmental systems, things like that. And I thought living in China would be a great way um, to try that.
And well, there are plenty of things, I guess, plenty of places to where you can teach English. So why specifically China? What made you choose this country?
Mm. Well, the first reason was I wanted to learn some Mandarin if I could while I'm out here.
Hmm.
Obviously, China is like a huge economy, and it's only growing even more in the future, perhaps even the biggest economy in the world. So it was
Hmm.
quite an easy decision to come to China, especially when you consider if teaching English is what you want to do. This is really one of the best places for it. It has some of the best wages and living conditions for English teachers. And when you find an agency like Work and Live in China to make it easier, it seems like a simple choice.
And how do you find Mandarin so far? Did you catch up with any phrases, words? How do you find it in general?
Yeah, I'm trying to pick some up. It's going okay. Obviously, my Mandarin is still very basic because I didn't know any before I
Hmm.
came out. But I recently visited Shanghai
Hmm.
for a weekend, and I was able to ask simple questions. Where is something? How much is this? Hello, goodbye, things like that. So I was able to survive, but yeah, far, far, far from fluent at the moment.
And where do you teach right now? What city are you in?
So I'm teaching just outside of Nantong, which is a city
Hmm.
about 3 hours drive from Shanghai, and about 2 hours from Suzhou. It's on the east coast of China,
Hmm.
quite close to sort of Korea. So I've been here for about a month. The weather is very good at the moment, but I am told that it can be very cold in winter as well. So
Hmm.
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the weather for now, but let's see how it goes.
And when you traveled on weekends to Shanghai, can you compare like two cities, the one you're teaching in and Shanghai? What is the contrast? What were your first impressions about Shanghai?
I love Shanghai. It's a very international city, so there's lots of foreigners around. I think one benefit to living where I live instead of living in Shanghai and just visiting somewhere like Shanghai is that if you're trying to learn the language or get involved with local culture,
Hmm.
then it's better to be somewhere like I am, where there's still some foreigners but not so many. Because I think if I lived in Shanghai all the time, it would be too easy to stay with what you're comfortable with. Only go to sort of foreigner bars and only mix with foreigners. Whereas where I am now, I'm interacting with the locals a lot more. I've joined the local football team and they speak hardly any English. So, if I want to communicate with them, then learning the language is the only way. So I guess there's benefits to both.
Great. And well, you mentioned there are not so many foreigners where you are. So how do local people treat you? Like, what is the attitude, and how do you communicate with them if you don't know Chinese? Like, do they know English in everyday life, basically?
They don't generally know English, just the people you meet. It's quite surprising when they do, but they are more than happy to try and help you communicate with
Hmm.
them. They always seem quite happy if I go into a small restaurant or a food stand. They're generally happy that I'm deciding to visit their one. Um, and also technology is much more commonplace in China, I've found so far, than maybe in the West in terms of everyone has a smartphone and it's used for everything, for paying for things, and that means that everyone has like a translation app on their phone and it's ready to go straight away. So if we are struggling to communicate after some pointing and me attempting a few phrases, then normally someone will just whip a phone out and we can get on Google Translate and solve things that way.
Yeah, that's great. And well, have you been considering other companies other than us when actually deciding on going to China? What made you choose work and live in China here?
Yeah, I was looking at a few companies. What made me decide to go with work and live in China was probably all the testimonials they had on the website. It was really easy to see that people had already used them and had had good results and did trust them. And like I'm doing now, were willing to vouch for them. So I think when you look at that, it makes it an easy decision and one you can trust.
Hmm. And was there any support provided to you when you arrived to China? Like, what happened when you just first thing you arrived? Can you describe
Yeah.
a little bit?
So I arrived overnight and I was the taken to a hotel, which was good, which was paid for by the company. And on the first night, there was a mix-up in terms of which days I would be arriving. So the hotel didn't think I was arriving that night. So
Hmm.
at first, I was a bit worried, thinking, "Oh no, have I made a mistake?" But fortunately, the next day, everything was sorted out fine. Somebody from the company came and met me, explained the situation to the hotel, and paid the difference, so I didn't have to pay for anything. Then I was taken out for lunch and given a SIM card, helped to create a bank account, and that really put my mind at ease. So basically, it's been pretty plain sailing since I arrived, and yeah, the whole time I've been here, people have been checking in with me from the company, making
Hmm.
sure that everything's going okay, and that I was comfortable here. So things have been very good, yeah.
How about your arrival to the workplace? Like, can you describe your, I guess, first week in a school, or do you teach in a school or in a kindergarten?
It's like an English. It's a school that only teaches English, so it's for
Okay.
kids who are about. I'd say the ages are about 4 to 11, around that age sort of age group. And
So,
the arrival was good. I was worried. You read things online before you come. I'd read with some people who had bad experiences, like they turned up and they were expected to teach the next day after they arrived, not knowing much. But that wasn't the case at all. I arrived, and on the first day, I met my boss, a lady called Tina, and her husband. Tina picked me up from the airport, drove me back, and was very friendly and seemed very
mhm.
excited to have me there. Then I went out for dinner with her and her husband, and again the next day with some of my a co-worker who is also a foreigner. She's a lady from South Africa. So I was introduced to people before I'd even got to this school. And then my first couple of weeks at school were just getting to know everything, and there was quite a slow pace to it, which was good because obviously you're getting used to everything in a new country. So for the first two, maybe even 3 weeks, I was just basically watching other people's lessons,
Mhm.
taking notes, and getting used to everything before I even had to, teach a lesson myself. So I was fully prepared by the time it was time for me to actually teach.
And did you have experience teaching before you came to China?
No, not at all. I mean, I had some experience maybe coaching football teams with younger kids, but that's completely different. So I
Hmm.
had no experience. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but I was shown how to do everything, and there's a definitely a getting used to period, but there was no problems in that regard. Felt really by the time I started teaching, I felt really comfortable because I'd already been shown other people doing it and shown how it works.
So how do you like in general? How do you find it without having experience? Do you find it difficult to teach English in China, or is it okay for you?
I'm not finding it difficult at all. The way the school I'm working at operates on is quite formulaic, which is a good thing, obviously, for a new teacher. I know what I should be teaching for each lesson before I go there, um, and I just customize it. I don't actually have to make the lesson plan myself. I just have to change things so it doesn't get boring for the kids. For example, the
Mm.
games we're playing or what songs we might do. So it's been I won't say easy because you're still learning something new and at the same time you're living in a different country. But I've been comfortable throughout. So yeah, it's been good.
Great. And how about Chinese culture and people? Do you find anything like awkward or maybe interesting, maybe something that is unusual for you from because you're from the West, it's an Asian country, something that you bumped into and you didn't know how to react to it or you find amusing, fascinating?
There's so many things I find interesting. Every day there is something I'll see or notice, and I might ask one of my teachers at the school, why did that happen? What does this mean? And there's so many interesting things. The first thing I noticed was meals are very communal here. So I'm from England, and I guess a lot of Europe is the same. When you have dinner, in most cases, you order your own food or you make your food, and everyone will have their own plate which they eat from. But that's
Hmm.
just not the case in China, especially if you go to a restaurant. Everything seems to be shared, so there'll be plates in the middle, and you might only have of your own small bowl of rice which you eat over, and you just take things.
Hmm.
So that's one interesting thing. There's so many more. I guess you just have to come to see. In general, in general though, the people here are very allowing if you make any mistakes with their culture. They understand that you're a foreigner, so you shouldn't be expected to understand everything straight away. And if they do see you making a small effort, like if they see you trying to learn to use chopsticks and making a mistake, they enjoy that. They sort of see, they're not like they're not annoyed that someone would be doing their
Hmm.
things. They seem quite happy that someone's trying to learn or embrace their culture. So it's all been really positive so far.
Great.
One another particular thing that I found difficult was trying to buy gifts for people here.
Hmm.
So I had no idea, but certain gifts have different meanings in China. So if I was to buy somebody a pair of scissors, for example, or another sharp object, it would mean that I'm ending our friendship because I'm sort of cutting ties. Or if you buy someone an umbrella, it means you're very sad with them for whatever reason. So I found it an absolute hassle trying to buy a small thank you gift for my boss for her help when I arrived. And in the end, I just went to the default bottle of wine. But there's many things, and you have to come out to learn them all. But it's very interesting, yeah.
Nice, awesome. And can you tell a little bit about your apartment, where you live now? How do you find it?
Yeah, yeah. So my apartment is about. I'm pretty lucky. It's really it's under a 5 minute walk from my school. The building I'm in is opposite the building that the school I work in is. So it's almost impossible to be late, which is good. And especially when you first arrive, it can be difficult getting around. Um, if you have to take a bus or whatever to where you're going, it might be difficult. But for me, it's perfect. It's just a walk. The apartment itself is perfect for just me. I know when I was at university, I tended to be a bit messy with my room, but when you have an apartment, it feels different, and I've been keeping it clean. I've got a kitchen which is bigger than I need because I tend to eat out most of the time anyway.
Mhm.
Food's really cheap here, so it's almost cheaper to eat out if you're in not a restaurant, sort of a food stall or something, than it is to buy, at least if you're buying Western ingredients, than it is to cook for yourself.
Mhm.
I've got a bathroom, which is fine. I've got a living room, which I'm in now. There's my whiteboard that I'm trying
Oh,
to use to
nice.
learn Chinese. And I've got a nice balcony, which I use for like washing like
Mm.
hanging up my washing, things like that, and has some nice views. Yeah, it's the perfect size. If you were going with a spouse, a girlfriend, or a boyfriend or whatever, it would still be perfect size for two people. So yeah, the apartment's good.
Great. And the last question I have is, how do you spend your free time out of lessons usually? What do you enjoy doing there? Are there any places to go?
Yeah, that the one negative about living in my town probably is there aren't as many activities as I like. But luckily the people are really friendly. So like I said, I've been able to find a football team, which is really good.
Hmm.
So I can play with them on the weekends, which is, for someone who like me who just loves football, that was absolutely necessary. And
Hmm.
also those guys take me to watch the local football team play sometimes during the week, so that's good. I also go to the gym. Um, and I've been looking to try and find some sort of martial art that I can start doing, but I haven't found anything yet. But I'm sure there is going to be something. It's just taking a while to find it. Um, the other things I do, just sort of exploring. I've got a bike here, like a pedal bike. So for the
Hmm.
moment, I'm still looking around. I'm finding new things in this town all the time. There's a well, it looks like a tiny town, and for China, it is considered very small. But there's actually 1 million people here, so it is still it's still pretty big compared to Europe. Some towns. So there is loads to do if you want to go and look for it. Obviously, depends where you live. Like if, but yeah, the transport's really good as well. They have bullet trains that go most places. So if you want to visit other cities, I'm sure you can. I've only been here for just over a month, and I've already visited Suzhou, Shanghai, and I'm looking to
Very
go to
close
Zhou.
places. Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, the last thing, I guess, can you, if there were like one piece of advice you would give to those who are considering teaching in China, what would that be? Like anything that you could advise them?
Um, Probably learn about China before you come out.
Hmm.
I've had loads of fun reading or being here and noticing things and learning things, but I was doing some reading and I wish I'd done more just before coming out here. Just read up
Hmm.
about the culture, the people, the language. You don't need to study it in depth. You don't need to know loads, but the more you know before you arrive, the quicker your transition is going to be, and the more interesting you'll find things because you might notice something that you wouldn't have noticed or wouldn't have paid attention to if you hadn't done any research beforehand. But
Hmm.
yeah, enjoy.
Great. Thank you, Tom, for this awesome share experience, you in China, and thank you for comments on our company. We wish you to stay long and happy there. And if you need anything from us, any help, remember that we have 24/7 support there while you're staying in China. So you can text me, you can text John. Anybody in our team will help you. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Take care.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Bye bye.